Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I am Jason Walker and I've got a tea that is ready to go. So let's go ahead and get it started. I'm going to scoop out enough to cover the bottom, say inch to inch and a half diameter of my 3-ounce gaiwan here. That looks good. Got my water brought to an early boil, not a full rolling boil. I want to add enough so that a little bit of water rests just above the rim of the lid. It's going to keep air out. It's going to keep the air, the oxygen, from changing the color of the liquor. That looks good. So let that sit and steep and introduce this tea. This is from Grand Tea, grandtea.com. This is their Yixing Souchong. Now Yixing, you may hear more about as a source of the Yixing, the clay teapots. This is a tea that's produced from that area in Jiangsu province. You can get 25 grams for $4.50, 4.5 US. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this tea, the dry leaf, the wet leaf, the liquor. I'm going to go ahead and start off here with the dry. Give this a smell first. So, Lapsang Souchong, so you can get different experiences with Lapsang Souchong. Lapsang Souchong in Fujian province can have a smoky campfire, piney, tar type smell. This one, on the other hand, is quite chocolatey in the smell. There's a cocoa powder type smell. There's a bit of a toasty raisin bran, so you got a bit of the grape there, you got a bit of the toasty bran wheat flakes, toasted wheat kind of smell. So quite different. Now Souchong is a dialect term, and if you translate it into English, it means more like the small variety. So you could expect this as the lesser known variety. It's kind of maybe the way that gets translated or explained in some cases. Scooping out these leaves. This small variety, meaning lesser known, not that often used, and I would say that seems to be the case. You don't hear a lot about Yixing type black teas. Scooping out these leaves, you do see a deep, dark, black-brown, bister type color, gray, brown, dark gray, that kind of colors, with here and there, and I'm going to estimate maybe 10% golden, fuzzy-looking tips or buds. So that's nice, indicating these are younger, delicate leaves. These leaves are kind of curled, wrapped along the middle vein of the leaf, so they're wrapped along the length of the leaf. But they look to be very small, intact for the most part, or mostly intact, small leaves, which gives us a nice look. They're, again, curly in the way that they're twisted and turned around on each other. So, nice looking leaf. I'm going to go ahead now and get into the liquor and the wet leaf. To do that, I'm going to angle my lid over to the side. Middle finger and thumb are mostly the ones holding the main fingers holding the gaiwan. The lid here holding in place with my index finger holding the lid there. And so as I have room for the water to flow out the bottom, there's space up here at the top for the air to come in, so you get a nice and smooth pour. That looks good. Let me give this a shake. Let the leaves kind of settle back down to the bottom. Now I can get into the the wet leaf here. Give this a smell. Still very hot gaiwan, so you want to make sure to hold it by the rim whenever you're as close to the edge as you can. So that's where less of the heat hopefully accumulates. Nice, again, nice raisin bran, toasty, flakes, wheat, toasted wheat kind of element. Again, a bit less of the grape raisin element than the toasted wheat aspect. I'm looking, the cocoa, the chocolatey aspect dropped off. I'm waiting to see if this cools and if it returns. So far, it has not really done that. I'm going to scrape off a few of the leaves that got stuck to the lid and reach in and just kind of pull out, hopefully, a representative sample of what's in my gaiwan here. Drop that on. And these leaves have unfurled quite a bit, so that now these are actually much larger than they looked at first. There's leaves here that are, say, 2 to 3 inches in length. Let me see here. And sometimes more than one leaf, a leaf and a bud that can be going on here. Here is a young tip with a bit of the stem beneath, indicating perhaps this was connected to another leaf at some point. The color, it's still relatively, compared to a lot of teas that you can get like this one still stays within a dark, bistre, deep, dark gray brown type of color. It hasn't eased off and moved over towards a reddish brown type color as much as some others. There is still some of the reddish brown, but not quite as much. Longer leaves than I expected here for the most part. They have not fully unfurled, which is a positive note, meaning subsequent steeps they will gradually unfurl a little bit more, and that means they're more gradually and more evenly distribute the flavor and character of the tea into the liquor over extended steepings or an extended process of steeping this tea. I'm going to give this a swirl, hold that up to the light, and you can see a nice dark beyond copper. Again, this is more like molasses type brown red, perhaps a dark, very dark amber molasses type color. Looks good in the cup. Toasty wheat with a little, the cocoa is, and the chocolatey aspect, starting to pick up a little bit here in the liquor. Okay, so let me give this a taste. Still a baked bean, molasses now coming out a little bit more. So it's got a bit of a thicker, and associations there will come with a little bit of a thicker feel, a bit more of a syrupy type of feel. So you do have the toasty wheat in there. You do have a bit of the raisin aspect. So you got that kind of raisin bran combined effect. The molasses, baked bean molasses. So it's a bit of a caramelly molasses type sweetness there. And that molasses baked bean aspect really rests in the aftertaste too, so that you get this kind of syrupy texture as you're tasting, and then as in the aftertaste after you swallow, you still get the residual molasses, maple syrupy type stickiness, syrupy type feel, as if you just swallowed some of that kind of that syrup. It's quite extended, still getting that aftertaste going on. Astringency, very gentle, so it's just enough to kind of waken up the tongue, just enough to give a little bit of a mouth-watery feel. Let me see if this has changes any with the temperature decrease here. Yeah, this time, swirling around, I picked up a bit more of the cocoa powder. It seems that as this tea drops a bit in temperature, you can pull out a bit more of a cocoa powder type of taste. So that indicates there is some complexity here. There is an element of teasing out and pulling out these different dimensions of this tea, which are overall positive dimensions to look at. Looking at this tea, then, there are some characteristics that just kind of dominate. You have to kind of work past them. You have to let the tea cool. You have to do this and that, kind of to let those other characteristics come to their own. But still, quite a bit there to talk about. Not harsh, not overly smoky, a nice syrupy, thick kind of feel in the mouth too. So I would give this tea a 90. Nice components. Again, you got to work with it a little bit. You got to kind of cooperate with it. So come back to Walker Tea Review, find out about this tea. You can get these tea reviews delivered directly into your email inbox by subscribing to the newsletter. You can also subscribe to the member content. In the member content, you're going to find more in-depth information, articles about tea origins, tea people, and dialogues across with tea experts about different topics. You can find all that on Walker Tea Review.